Is on his way. We'll get started here. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
6 p.m., buddy.
Yeah.
See what you miss when you're out of town?
No.
Are you in Sarasota time or Florida time? What are you thinking?
Florida, anywhere.
Well, we're glad you're here. I am.
Me too.
Yep. Welcome back.
Me too.
Welcome back, except you were 2 weeks too early. Other than that,
Only on
welcome
this
back.
side of the table.
All right, we will call the Plan Commission meeting to order. Everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, any additions, deletions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion's approved. Discussion possible action on the final plat for St. Croix Meadows redevelopment.
So, St. Croix Meadows LLC submitted a final plat to the city that includes 8 lots and 3 outlots, which also includes public right-of-way labeled as Brecken Drive and Sharon Lane, and 2.5 acres of parkland was dedicated as well, which will be city-owned once it's approved. This plat is consistent with previously approved preliminary plat and final master plan, and I'd like to note the main changes that were made in the plat as well. It includes a reconfiguration of Lot 12 and a lot size reduction in Outlot 2 that provides adequate area for the proposed city-owned parkland. And the final plat also dedicates public right-of-way for the northern half segment of Tower Road and an area along County Highway F for turn lanes at the intersection with Brecken Drive. So staff recommends approval of the final plat with the following conditions: that all existing utility easements the City of Hudson is interested in, which are determined to be no longer necessary to support the newly platted development, be released upon review and approval by city staff and attorney. That a master plan amendment to the comprehensive plan be provided and submitted to the city for Lot 12 to provide for proposed residential housing types and locations that may be different than the existing approved master development plan. That a master plan amendment shall be subject to approval by Common Council for any significant change proposed from the November 12, 2018 approved master development plan. That a second phase development agreement between the city and the developer be approved by Common Council prior to the issuance of any building permit on any of the newly platted lots. And for that last 5th point, I'd like to make an amendment to that one. We want to make it say, the recorded overall access agreement be approved by the city attorney and city staff and determined to provide adequate access to all lots not abutting public right-of-way prior to the final plat's recording.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
We had very much interest from the landowners on that side. I guess I just want to, is there any changes in this that are any different than what they heard and or were exposed to? Is there any need for us to vet this in front of them to see if there's any potential problems?
Do you mean aside from what was sent out in the mailings
Yes.
to them? No.
Well, and if you have not heard anything, are we safe to proceed?
Nope, unless Janelle from WSB would like to make any mention of anything.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to know if there was any
We don't have
public
any
comment on it and or neighbor
Yeah, if anybody
disapproval.
wants to come up and talk about it.
Now's the time.
Please, now would be the time.
Quinn O'Leary, 380 Tower Road. My comment is when this process got started, it was taken off of a preliminary plan, access to Tower Road, and that seemed kind of like it was settled business, that there would be no access roads to Tower Road. And I guess that's what we're referring to, right? We're adding it. So it's my understanding, and Fred, I kind of agree. I feel like that was kind of settled business with the neighbors, and if that's not the case, they should definitely be notified. And yeah, so basically that's my concern is access on Tower Road. Obviously, Outlot 2 feeds in there. Outlot 12 feeds in there, or Lot 12 will feed to Tower, and that's just a really unsafe spot, unsafe road, small, skinny road, doesn't need more traffic on it. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tiffany, can you, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
They're saying they're gonna they're gonna access at that.
Are there any other people that want to comment on this topic? We're talking about the dog track and the final master plats. Please.
Thanks, Fred.
It's all right.
My name is Randy Stensker, and I live at 391 Tower Road. And I live live across from the quarry, and I'm down in the valley. And I used to be right in front of me used to be the kennels for the old Greyhound track. So when we were here, there was a proposal to put a road there. So I didn't know there was going to be another road coming on the tower. So whereabouts is this road supposed to be going?
There will not be access onto Tower Road.
Yeah, I can answer these
Yeah.
questions because there's actually not an access road being proposed directly to Tower with this plat submittal. So if you have any other comments.
No, that's just
okay.
what
And I can
because,
respond.
okay.
Yes, please.
So hello, I'm Janelle Taveja with WSB representing the developer, St. Croix Meadows LLC. And both myself, Todd Hubmer from WSB, and Clint Klaas from St. Croix Meadows LLC are all here to answer any questions. I just want to clarify, I think there's a little bit of confusion. If you look at the plat that we submitted, the public, in fact, I'm going to pull up an exhibit that's a little more readable because it has some color on it. And it has everything on one page instead of the separate 5-page plat that the surveyor had to submit per the state standards. This little sliver you see on the very bottom of the screen, that is actually being dedicated back to the public per the city's request, and that has always been a condition of our final master plan approval since day one, even in 2016 when we had our first project. So I think some people are getting a little bit confused. This is just public right-of-way being dedicated back to the city as part of the plat. This lot 12 that's designated for multifamily does abut Tower Road, but we are not proposing a public road at this moment with the final plat or direct access. Brecken Drive, which is the loop through the center, will be dedicated as public right-of-way, as was approved in the preliminary plat. And the only change from the preliminary plat is adding this segment of road to be designated in the future as public instead of private, so that you can access a city-required parkland, which that was carved out of the overall site based on a condition of approval of our final master plan. It's a 2.5-acre piece of land that the city will own in the future.
Is that where your mouse is right now?
Yep.
Parkland?
This is the 2.5 acres right here. So that's why this private road is now being designated to be public, because it will be for public use, the parkland. So hopefully that answers the questions.
Could you clarify a lot 2 access?
And where is that listed? Let me.
That's the whole bluff line there to the east, or to
Oh yeah, Outlot 2 is this area, which is actually unbuildable, but we have to designate it as an outlot because it is within the property boundary, but it's part of that steep slope area that can't be touched based on DNR regulations. So we have that outlot along the whole east part of our site for that preserved area, and then this is an outlot because of the regional pond, and our extended pond treatment also covers this. And then this lot at the very south is the multifamily, which has always been. And if the multifamily changes the configuration, they have to come back for an amended final master plan, which was part of what was written up in the approval from the city. So hopefully that clears up that.
Can you explain just the small finger on outlet 2 reaching out to Tower Road? That's not for access purposes?
No, that's not access. That's actually protected steep slope area.
That's the ridge, right?
Correct, the ridge, the cliff. So I think people maybe were just confused by the language in here, thinking this was an access piece. It is not. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody good?
Yep, I'm good. I will move to approve with all the conditions that Tiffany or that are in our packet with the change to the last one as you amended.
Motion second to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on concept development plans for 411 Second Street, Mary Ann Buckman.
So Mary Ann Buckman has submitted plans for an addition or expansion, I guess, to 411 Second Street. This project includes the addition of a garage and office space in the ground level, an expansion of the main level commercial space, and a third floor apartment with balcony is proposed to be added to the structure on top. Staff recommends approval of the concept development plans with the following conditions: that the site improvements adhere to the approved development and construction processes within the city, that all staff comments be satisfactorily addressed and provided for by the applicant prior to final development plan consideration by the Plan Commission and Common Council, and I'd like to add one more as well, that the site improvements adhere to NR 118 Riverway requirements.
Have there been any comments from the neighbors?
Not that, no.
I've heard comments from the neighbors. Dennis, are you going to do a little presentation? Is that okay, Mayor?
Yeah.
Tough times.
We knew you were coming.
So I'll be one. Dennis Kroll, Kroll and Associates. You have the colored rendering. And
We do?
anyhow, my client, Buckman's, Mary Ann and Vern Buckman own this property right next to Barker's on the south. And they want to make a simple improvement, put an extra story on top with an apartment in it, and expand it to the back to use more of the land. It's
Everybody wants in.
complex construction. They have a retail tenant who they want to keep in there, so it'll be even more complex to build around. Anyhow, what else can I say? Does anybody have any questions?
So, I have a question.
Only comment I would have is the same one we've had with others along the way, is they being cognizant of the fact that their views may change in the future as neighbors do things with their buildings. That
Because the zoning applies to everybody, all the property owners, and so if somebody west of you should build something, please realize that
And they
today. Today.
yeah,
And they will,
Well, I mean,
at some point.
yeah, but sometimes that isn't always the case. So just everybody being aware of it's been said, and
So we got,
other than that, I'll move to approve.
I'm seeing renderings
no.
of it.
I'm sorry.
I have questions. I've been trying to grab your attention. Can we pause that, move to
Oh,
approve?
go right
till we're
ahead.
done discussing?
Oh. You want to pause that? Go ahead.
Thank you. So, have you had conversations with the neighbors? I mean, just if you look at the height difference between, the building on the neighboring sides and the impact of that. So I just have some questions about that. And then just kind of, is it going to abut right up to tight?
Yeah, it's
to
a
the
zero
building?
lot line situation
Okay.
in the old town, and you're going to have that all the way along there. No, we haven't had conversations yet about this.
With the neighboring buildings?
No, but we intend to, and we recognize that we will have to make some agreements with them on easements, on construction easements and the utility changes.
Right, because there'll be utility changes, and just kind of thinking too, I mean, I'm just wondering if you had those conversations prior to approval, and maybe, I don't know, but, I mean, just kind of the construction piece too.
I would say so.
Are you going to do you have a plan on the construction, on the construction piece? I mean, are you going to, Second Street is already busy. the alleyway
Right.
there is already busy, so kind of what's the plan for length of construction? How are you going to gain access? Are you going to block off part of Second Street? Are you going to do it from the back and block out the alley?
Not necessary to do that. We don't need to cut into Second Street because the sprinkling system is not required. And the assumption is that, and I've talked to some engineers about it, the assumption that the domestic water that is there right now is enough to facilitate the changes. The utilities, any changes will be in the alley right now, and really that amounts to electric, to Excel's electrical and communications kind of wiring, and that is in the works. Mary Ann has contacted Excel, and Excel is going to meet us there one of these days shortly, and we're going to talk about it, and that will lead to a discussion with the neighbors.
I mean, I know Mary Ann is all about being a good neighbor, and I totally get that, but I'm just a little surprised if you haven't had a conversation with the neighbors yet to kind of work out some of these pieces, or maybe you have.
And make sure they knew.
Well, one of my neighbors knows.
Okay.
Yes. Doesn't know the extent of it yet.
Okay.
I wanted to get through the concept meeting here, see what your concerns were.
Right.
Because with the boundary survey, one of my neighbors is on my property.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not paying, I'm looking at this and
Come to
listening.
the podium,
Could
please.
you come to the podium, please, and again, give your name and address?
Hi, I'm
Thank you,
Mary Ann
Mary
Buckman. We have had a conversation with one of my neighbors to the north a couple of years ago. He knew I was planning on expanding. It's really hard to find the owner of the property to the south, but I do have his number right now, and we'll be talking to both of them and sending letters on what we're proposing and a possible start date, which I don't have right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a great location, and you have a great retailer in there too. So, I mean, I think the idea is, I'm just looking at it from kind of the neighborhood and the access and kind of the busyness of, as you think through how you do the construction and the length of that, if that's from the Second Street side or if that's from the alley side, you know, how much, because I know there's a lot of trucks that go in the back alley for all of the restaurants that are back there too. So just kind of, you know, just bringing some of those issues forward. And then I don't know, I mean, this has been an unusual snow winter, as we all know. So as you look at this, with this building being, you know, kind of the tallest in between the two, does that cause concern for those buildings if snow coming down on that or on their roofs or on their utilities or what they have on their roofs too? But I'm sure you'll go over all that with them, and when you...
Small space,
yes.
People do it, and we have practice.
Well, good to know, Dennis, good to know. I'm not surprised, I know.
Mary Claire, have you had concerns expressed to you?
I just
What
yes.
were those?
Sorry?
What were those?
Just part of, I think the condensed and, you know, where it comes on the property line and the construction and how that's going to be from the front or the back and...
Yeah, well, the, whatever, Hudson Tap was, most of that construction was done through the alley.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what your time frame is, Dennis, but the road's going to be done. Second Street's going to be done, so I don't know when.
2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When are you looking time frame wise?
Later this year or early 2020.
Okay.
You know, I'm kind of open right now. So,
The other thing that I would like to know is, you're gonna, if you're making the building bigger, you're reducing the parking behind it, of course. And then how many tenants and what will be the required parking stalls that are, you know, for your building, if you will. And will you have enough, and what kind is it, and all of that, you know, that type of thing. Because you're getting pretty crowded back there, you know, especially if you make your building bigger.
Can I speak on that? It's less than 6,000 square feet, which is exempt from the requirement. There's, there will be, including the garage, 3 spaces.
Okay.
And that's pretty much what there is now, I think, right back there. We need room for trash and all that.
So 2 spots inside the garage and then, oh, 1 spot inside the garage. I'll take the inside. Just saying.
No, one of your concerns was getting a
There you go.
elevation survey, and I've contacted the company who's done the boundary survey, and
Oh, okay.
they usually don't do the surveys in the dead of winter, but we are on their schedule for as soon as that they can get out, they'll do a elevation survey, so we're all on the same page as to your concern on the alley elevation, that we're not lower than Barker's.
We won't be. We'll have a short. No. Well, that's an easy one. I think that the GIS is, there's some misinformation there. Anyhow, that's pretty technical, and we, David Gray has asked, has stated that we should have a survey of the elevations, spot elevations, to make sure, just to assure that we're not getting into a situation where we need to put the entrance to the garage lower than the alley in that place, where in this particular instance there's no storm drain in the alley, and that's the lowest spot, and the city would probably have complaints for years after. I assume that's why that came up. So anyhow, we're going to get the spot elevations, and we'll build it so that's higher than the alley.
Well,
and it seems like, from the information that we have, it seems like that will be a good foot above the alley anyhow, if not more, 18 inches or something.
Well, that's something you'll have to determine with city staff anyway, and with Mike.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty detailed.
well,
And David Gray.
Yeah. But what Buckman's are doing is expanding the commercial on the street level to add, what is it, 47 feet going backwards, and some of that's taken up by stairs, of course. Trash here, 2 parking spots outside and 1 inside. The basement is for some utilities and storage. The upper apartment is a place that Mary Ann and Vern intend to use at some point in time, as they at some point. I didn't want to say that. They've got a place for the aging. For the aging.
Yes. No elevator chaff, though. Oh yes, there is. Yep.
There is a little.
I see that.
A little future elevator planned, and a future deck too.
Well, I think it's great to see continued development on these buildings in downtown, and I think you're keeping within the character of the buildings that we like to see too, so thank you for that.
Very creative.
Yeah.
Very creative, I think. Yeah.
Thanks for your.
So now move to approve?
Well, no, let me ask another question.
Well, we can still have a motion and have discussion.
Does concept approval mean they have the right to proceed, or does that mean they come back with a final plan? So if we approve it today without all the neighbors buying in, or being okay, or however to say it, are we just giving them the right to say, hey, doesn't matter what you think, I'm going ahead?
No, I take it we're giving them the concept approval, that we're behind the concept to do it. They still have to jump through all the hoops.
I'm good, thank you very much. That's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. We're all on the same page.
I'll second Pat's motion.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
And that's a, excuse me, just a great retailer that you have in your building too, so thank you for that, yeah.
I want to try not to cause too much disruption.
Right.
And I think, with Second Street being torn up in 2020, that might make a better sense to
Right.
kind of
Right, but that's great. Thank you.
create a little chaos.
We're just going to be creative in our thinking on how we handle that.
All right. Must be a member. Discussion and possible action on recommendation to council on temporary zoning for those lands included in the Creative Home Construction Investments LLC / Douglas N. and Linda K. Foster petition for direct annexation by unanimous approval. Parcel 020-1097-70-00.
So under city code, we are required, whenever we do an annexation process, we have to bring properties in with a temporary zoning amendment that matches what the neighboring town previously had it at, or something similar. So the town of Hudson had this parcels zoned as agriculture residential. So that's what we're proposing for this zoning amendment to be. But it's temporary. It'll be brought back later on. But for now, it's just a temporary zoning.
So I see Creative is here.
Yes.
Olivia, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Not unless there's any specific questions.
Okay.
So this property abuts the hospital, is that, or the hospital property, is that the entrance that I saw?
No, this is the, this is the Foster. Yeah, it's close, but not like right by the hospital. It's kind of in that general area, but there's mostly single family homes surrounding it, some medium density residential twin homes.
Yeah, it's on the corner of Stage Line and where 35 goes through, so it's kind of backing up to Heritage Green.
Yep, great.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on there. Well, it sounds like they're following the orderly process of how things are next, so I will move to proceed or approve with, if there's any steps to it, stipulations, but you didn't say anything, so.
It's just a recommendation to council for the
Yes.
zoning if, it's annexed.
Well, then I make that motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on recommending the common council set a public hearing date for an amendment to Municipal Code Chapter 255, zoning to include small animal or reptile education businesses.
Community development would like to set a public hearing date for adding a new land use type. We last met about this at the last public or plan commission meeting to talk about potential land use terms for this use. We ended up going to different municipalities and towns, villages, both in Wisconsin and Minnesota and also in Michigan as well, to do a bit of research into what they would consider it. And they all are totally happy with that type of use, but they like to consider it. They require a conditional use permit in these types of situations, particularly in business zones. But yeah, I'd kind of like to get your guys' feedback on what you would like to do as far as setting a public hearing date for it. We do need to draft up the actual ordinance, so that would be coming back to you later on, probably at the next plan commission or something, but yeah.
I think it sounds great.
Yeah, I like the idea of the conditional use permit. That way, there's a weasel clause. If they aren't doing a good job, you can get them out of there.
A snake
Weasels
clause.
aren't reptiles.
There you go.
Do they have a,
Jumped you, sorry.
do they have a location picked out, or is this
No,
just in general?
no, it's
Sort of. Yeah, you missed the explanation meeting.
You missed the demonstration. It was like Bob Doerr coming in here with all the animals.
Yeah. Jungle land.
Huh?
Did it bite Fred?
No,
May
should
I?
have. But
Yes,
no,
Mary Claire.
sorry.
So I missed the part of the explanation at the most recent meeting too, but I mean, I'm not getting a lot of positive from folks about having this type of business in Hudson, but maybe that's just me.
Well,
She put our minds at ease, I thought, a little bit.
Yeah, I thought you did a good job last
it's more educational and not for sale.
What are the concerns, Mary Claire?
Well, I mean, just that type of business and having, are we getting a huge demand for that? And if it's educational, how does that, does that compete with Carpenter Nature Center and some of the things that they're already doing, or? I missed the presentation, so I'm just asking the question.
I don't think it would compete with Carpenter.
No.
Do they have?
No, I'd say,
I don't think they have reptiles over there, do they?
It's really quite of a rare type of business where, like you said, for them to even check out similar operations, they had to go to different states. And so you're not going to see one of these in every town.
Right.
And they're taking every precaution that they could possibly take. Any animals that they do have in-house, he used the term, and I don't recall it, but they would not survive here if they were wild and on their own.
They're not. They are not using native species unless they are. What was the term?
Hybrids.
hybrids or,
Oddities or
Yeah.
morphs. Morphs.
So I apologize, is it educational, or are they selling these?
More educational, but there is a sales piece to it, smaller.
Yeah.
they have to meet all the DNR regulations as to the types of critters that they can have, and the conditions that they're in and those kinds of issues.
It's a big show.
It's not like a
and
pet
place.
store.
Okay,
And our
It's
biggest
not like a pet store selling lizards and snakes.
okay,
Our big
alligators.
concern here in our discussion was obviously impact to our environment should
yes.
Yeah.
they get away. And whoever, Pat or Fred, had said that the species that they have in here can't survive up here in the winter. You can do a lot of damage in the summer, but
And then they'll morph.
Well, Randy came in too, full blown against it because of snakes, and then I think once.
Well, the chief of police had
Or
just
some,
had
yeah.
some kind of crocodile down there that they couldn't capture, so it was a safety issue. So that's why I'm like, we can't do this, but it was, she explained herself pretty well as an educational facility.
And that's why, given the comments that she made in describing her setup and what she was going to do, why I was so in favor of it being a conditional use permit. That way, if there's a deviation from that and they're not doing it, we have the authority then to not renew and to not forever grant that permission to be there, but it is under these
Very smart.
ways of doing it.
Mike?
So because this was an unfinished business item, we kept the language the same, obviously for the agenda. Does it make sense at this point to, now that you've seen the background and what other communities have it defined as and how they look at it, for us to bring back the actual draft code amendment before you set the public hearing date? So that way we can, we're going to have to create a definition and figure what that is and establish whatever the criteria are that we want to base our judgment on a project or a proposal like that, or our recommendation as a city. So whatever the DNR permit approvals are, whatever, setbacks we want to have, are they going to have outdoor jungle gyms for these things? I don't know. Just establishing a list and things that we would base our review of these projects on. So definition, and then also in terms of what zoning districts, we'll have to update the matrix of allowable uses. So we'll have to update where B2, light industrial maybe, we can bring that back to you, and then you set the public hearing date. And I think it'd be useful to have the individuals that are interested in the business type here to be able to be here and help guide that
They did a
process.
very good job of
Yes.
explaining it, which I think calmed everybody down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good job.
So that would be my recommendation.
Most everybody.
What do we need to do then here?
Motion.
Or are you saying you want to come back with
We'll come
with
back
an ordinance
with
first,
an
and
ordinance
then
with
we'll
with
set
it
the
all.
date.
Set the public-
We wanted, before we went through all of that work too, to make sure that you had it all in front of you, what other communities do, how they handle it, how we might handle it.
So you don't need anything tonight?
No.
All right. Easy enough. What else we got? Communication, anything for future agenda items?
Well, I'll bring it up again, Mike or Tiffany, about the overpass, 11th Street Bridge.
What, all right, to get that somehow in motion, what do we need to do?
I think we bring in our traffic engineer and, I mean, that's, and DO, that's the only way we can
Can we get a new one?
move.
We got a warrant it.
That'd be great to see you guys on the same side.
They were on Wisconsin
Do the
Street,
job right, you see?
so,
Well, it's gonna-
no, it's there, it's on our,
We got to get it moving. It's just not going to get any better. It's getting worse. And then when there's snow up there, holy moly.
You know.
there's nowhere to put it.
All right, so what do? We bring, so you're just gonna do that? You bring him in?
We'll bring Glenn in. It's going to tie in with our exit 2 interchange project too. I would imagine that would be a logical first step as we expand that, because there'll be closures when exit 2 someday happens. Hopefully.
Do you want
sooner
to
than
come
later.
from your office then, or do you want to come from formal action of some sort?
No, we'll come from our office.
Okay.
Okay.
Make sure we add it to the minutes and that we reach out to Glenn and to SEH and
Okay.
our District 5, I think it is. DOT folks.
Fred?
Another issue, broken record, Fred, on this one. Are we proceeding across the street again? On the color?
It's been sent to the chair of the committee. They appointed Mary Claire as the other member last meeting.
Yeah,
Last
we
council
appointed
meeting.
Is there any movement?
No, we haven't seen anything.
Haven't seen anything from the
How
chair.
do we prod that along, I guess would be maybe the right word, or do we have the ability to prod that along, or should we just, we've sat here for a year, the way I view this whole thing, and she's got to be laughing or saying, your ordinances have no teeth.
And it's not fair to
it's-
everyone else that we've made adapt or change what they were proposing, because it didn't.
And then did it on the
Criteria.
sly on top of it, and then tried to make us look bad.
How long have you been here, Mike?
Year and a half?
So it's been 2 years, going on 2
No,
years.
no, it was after I got here.
And I just want to see it
Yeah,
resolved,
but it was
however
right
it
after
may
you
be.
got here,
But
wasn't it? The summer?
Yeah.
to get away with something I think is wrong, to have it resolved is what I'd like to see.
Well,
And I don't know if those were right choice of terms, but I don't know how else to say it.
Reach out to Jim.
what, is there action that can be done here? We don't have,
I would need Catherine.
it's not an agenda item, but is there something that,
Do we recommend that someone else head up the committee?
well,
That would give you fodder, the
I mean,
change.
that's obviously not getting the job
He's
done.
dragging his feet, or isn't he? I don't know.
I don't know,
I don't
but-
know. I don't want to accuse anybody of anything at this point, but nothing's happening.
What are you looking at?
why are you looking over there?
Well, anyway, my wish that I think for the city's saving face and doing the right thing for everybody else, that needs to be taken care of. However it comes out in the end, and I'm not saying I'm one way or the other, it's just to have it burning and smoldering for 2 years is wrong too.
All right, I will call Jim, and I'll tell him the sentiment of the Plan Commission. Any sentiment is that he needs to move forward. Is that right? Everybody in agreement on that?
Or get out of the way.
Or get out of the way?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
Volunteer chair right here. You seem pretty passionate about it.
well,
I'm thinking that
can't,
the
because
ordinance-
I live on that block.
I think the ordinance said that the chair has to be a council member, didn't it?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that was-
Randy? Councilmember Morset?
Well, that's what Mr. Hogan was, wasn't he? Wasn't he the one?
Yeah,
And
he
then-
was.
He was.
And then he
Passed.
passed.
Chosen.
and,
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just been floating since,
So, yeah, it's been just about a year since he passed away.
right?
And I think Councilmember Weber was appointed right after that. So that's going on a year.
Well, this isn't at our level, I feel, but I mean, in the same breath,
It is.
it is. I mean, how can we prod somebody to do something? I mean,
All right, well, I'll call Jim and tell him the sentiment of the committee and ask him to get it scheduled as quickly as possible or incur your wrath. or get out of the way.
Well, then you should put it on the next plan commission agenda for formal action.
Yeah, I think we should.
I don't know if we can.
Why? This is a.
Is it a judicial action, a quasi-judicial action of an appeal board?
Well,
So
I think the
that's-
action that you're
it-
talking about is a recommendation to the council that they do something
Oh,
about it.
okay.
Do something or change
Okay,
it.
I want to be very clear.
I'm hearing that correctly.
Yes.
Then I think it would be worthwhile to check in with Catherine too.
Okay.
She'll
But-
check in.
Yeah. So, let's get it on the agenda for, some type of recommendation from us.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Just on that question, so if you're looking for a recommendation from this group, are you going to send out the information that talks about what the?
The only recommendation is gonna be to have the council the committee get moving, right, or not?
Correct.
I mean, that's the only thing that we can do, I presume.
Very good.
I don't think we have any other authority to.
Well, that's
to do
what
that.
I wondered, yeah.
Only other thing I'd add is that an attaboy to the city staff and getting the snow going last week with the storm and everything. I thought they did a really good
We
job.
got notice, by the way, of course, not that it's gonna matter, I don't think, hopefully knock on wood, but that we've run out of space for
Snow.
snow.
Yeah.
And so they're not gonna be, removing some of the snow. They're gonna do downtown, I think, pretty quick, but
They did last night.
last
I
night.
think they've done a really good job.
Well, and they've been getting the corners and I think trying to get the catch basins and stuff, which now,
They're out today.
oh boy,
Yeah.
those things are plugged up, you know, we're gonna be skating down the streets.
Yep,
I move to adjourn.
okay.
Second?
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.